Episode 2 here of the live stream Get Sober and Stay Sober. Get Sober, Stay Sober. So, we're going to talk today a little bit about triggers to drink. We're all dealing with kind of the holiday season, whether you believe or not. We're in it, we're in this place. We got to deal with the people that are out in this world. And so, I got a couple stories I want to share with you about that. It's the weekend. Of course, we want to stay sober. We had some nice weather here yesterday. Those were some other thoughts and ruminations that I had that I want to talk about with you guys and kind of go into depth about some of these triggers, some of these ruminations, some of these things that keep us in the cycle of addiction. So, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Josh, living life alcohol free. If you're returning, thank you guys so much for being here. All right, so let's get into this. Last week I had one shift, and this week I had another shift where I had a difficult person to deal with. It doesn't happen very often. If it does, I know who they are. I kind of can prepare myself. I know who they are. So, and if for those of you that don't know, I drive for public transportation. That's my primary job. So we get all kinds, and we get multiple people. So it's sometimes it can be a lot, but for the most part, I love to drive, and so it's not. I can kind of take the difficult ones with a grain of salt for the most part. That doesn't mean that it's always easy to deal with, especially if I see them on my slate that I'm gonna have to pick them up later. I'm kind of like, oh man, here we go. But I can prepare myself, and from in most days I'm prepared, and that's because I wake up and I prepare myself. I read scripture, I stretch, I physically and mentally I want to be ready for the day. I don't know what kind of things I'm going to have to do physically, so I got to make sure that I'm stretched out, I'm ready to go. I don't, pull some muscles if I have to get a wheelchair in or help somebody out or in or pick somebody up. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'll have to do, so I got to be ready. And that goes for my mentality and my spirituality as well. If I don't work on that in the morning, then I'm not ready for my day, and those triggers can. And being 5 years alcohol free, I don't have those triggers necessarily to drink, but I still have triggers that I have to deal with anxiety, and that's an important part of this. A lot of people drink or do drugs or use things to cope with stress, and that's a huge thing. But if we can recognize those stressors, those triggers, and welcome Emiliana, and if we can recognize those things, we can deal with them and nip them in the bud before they become an issue, and we want to drink or do drugs or whatever it is later on in the day to help us cope with that. So this one in particular, and I won't get into too much depth about it, but he was, I picked him up. We had icy roads. We had a huge snowstorm, and we're talking about sobriety here today. And we had a huge snowstorm. Luckily, I was thankful and blessed enough to not have to work that day. They found coverage for me and let me know, so I didn't have to go to work that day. But I went in the next day, and the roads have all iced over at this point. So those people that didn't have their driveways plowed, uh, we are we are okayed to not have to pull into those places that the driveways or the roads are not plowed. So if somebody schedules something knowing that the roads are like that, then they have to be aware that they need to be out where it's plowed out. So I got to this guy's house, and the driveway is long. It's a sheet of ice. And so, but I pull in, there's like ruts in the driveway from other people, other tire ruts in there. So I can get in, but there's a roundabout. And every time I pick this guy up, he wants me to drive around this roundabout. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't do it. And the reason why I don't do it is because there's trees that come down that if I'm in a transit van, it's going to scratch up the top of the van. and so I don't go under that tree. So when I pull up and I stop, he's got to walk over with his bag, and needless to say, he gets irritated. He gets a little bit like, uh, I don't know if offended's the thing, but he gets irritated and he says something, and then it's like, I feel like at that point it's like you should be thankful that we're here to pick you up, but you don't want to say that. So at this stage of the game, because it's icy, I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna pull around this roundabout now because it's iced over, and if I slip off, I might end up in the snowbank. So welcome, Patricia. So I don't pull off. I wait. He walks over. He gets in. Now he starts talking about on the phone. He starts talking about something that's going on with. He's taking care of a family member, so I can hear his conversation. He's stressed out, and I get that. So there's people that are stressed out, and a lot of times we have to figure out a way to deal with those people, but deal with them in a respectful way, in a way that's not going to trigger us. And sometimes we have to put up boundaries. And I'll get into that in a minute because I needed to put some boundaries into this conversation. And so we get down the road. We get about 10 minutes, 15 minutes down the road, and I ask him, "How's your neighborhood? Is it plowed out?" And I ask him that because his where I picked him up was not. So I'm assuming that it is where he lives, but at the same time, there's hills, there's other issues that I have to deal with that are after I drop him off. So I need to know, like, is this plowed out? So he's of course he's not going to tell me the honest truth. You know what I mean? He's already irritated. He's already questioning my driving abilities. He's already, just kind of like being offensive. But at the same time, I don't really care about that. I mean, I'm just like, I need to know what I'm in for here. So, of course, he doesn't tell me what I need to know. And he just was like, "What are you going to do? Drop me off like at the corner?" And I said, "Yeah, I might. I might." And then he said, he said, "How old are you, by the way?" And I'm like, what difference does that make? You know what? This conversation's over. And I knew where he was going with that. It's like, he says, "Well, I didn't say anything insulting." And I, and I was thinking to myself, no, not yet. But so so I ended that conversation. I'm like, I'm not talking about this. And he just starts going in on like, well, I've driven in much worse than this. And uh, I've, uh, I've driven in worse cars than this that were worse handling than this, and I've done this, I've done that, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, whatever, man. But I don't say that. I drop him off. He grumps. He grovels. I do my best to get back out of there, and I move on. And then I send my boss a note, letting her know what I just dealt with. And the fact that this rider doesn't care anything about the driver's safety. So that's that. And then luckily, my boss called and said, "You know what? We're all set for the day. If you want to go home, we don't have to find any more rides." So I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." So I got to go home. Uh, but then this week, I had another rider. This time, not an offensive one, but she was a constant complainer and somebody who was worried and anxious, like really bad, like to the point where her husband was like, you know, Jesus, just swearing, like, stop complaining and stop, being so anxious. It's not gonna happen. And anyway, I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious. But I did my best to calm her down. But that's what it's like in sobriety. So I ended up, uh, I ended up going ahead and I dropped her off. And then I thought, man, I've had two people this week within a week, and I'm wondering why is that? And then I kind of pieced it together, and I remembered last year at this time that I had maybe the same one guy, but then like two or three other people that are anxious and stressed out. And even the year before that, ever since I've been driving for public transportation, I've had a few issues. And when I think about these people, I have to kind of give them, not kind of, I have to be able to give them grace and just, treat them respectfully, answer their questions. But sometimes you have to put up a boundary or end a conversation, or let a boss know, or even let another family member know, like, hey, if you're, if you recognize that they're stressed out, maybe it's helpful to let the family member know that, hey, and they might already know. Uh, they might already know. They might have be dealing with it themselves, and rolling their eyes, and then you're like, you get it. So, but I thought, you know what? There's a trend here, and I'm noticing that it's the holidays. It's Christmas time, and there's going to be a level of a certain amount of people that most people seem happy, most people seem jolly, most people seem, thankful and grateful. And so that this isn't a video to bash on the people that are stressed or are offensive or are hurting people's feelings or whatever, but it is to, because in our sobriety we have to deal with those people. There's conflicts, and if we are new to sobriety or trying to get sober and stay sober, these triggers are something that we need to recognize before they become an issue, so that we don't use it to as an excuse to drink. Because a lot of times we drink uh, at those people, and they could be like, for me it's those riders. But and so thankfully I drop them off. I might have them in my vehicle for 15 or 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever. um, and I don't have to deal with them again, maybe until a couple days or a week, or maybe not even until next month. But some of us have people in our lives, family, friends, relatives, that we have to deal with constantly. And we might drink because of those people. We might drink because of, hey, thanks, Trappin. I appreciate it. And welcome in. And man, it's like we have to deal with those people. And it's one thing to have to deal with it, but it's another thing to drink and then punish. Ultimately, we're punishing ourselves, and we're not able to cope with it well. So that is a huge thing, and being able to not drink during those occasions, to be able to talk it out with somebody later on, to have a support system, to be able to lean on those people to help us get through those issues. Um, Welcome in, Dylan. Cigarettes are the only thing I have left to quit. I quit drinking 20 years. Congratulations on 20 years. That's awesome. And the cigarettes, yeah, I mean, cigarettes can be hard. My mom still is a smoker. I don't think that she's ever gonna quit. I mean, it is what it is. I sent her a book when I quit drinking. I read this book, Alan Carr, How to Quit Smoking, and he's got other things, how to quit sugar, how to quit. I think he might have how to quit alcohol. But Alan Carr. But I read a little bit of the book, but I had a lot of people in my group, This Naked Mind, recommend that book for smokers, and so I bought it on Amazon, an ebook, and I emailed the link to my mom, and she said she read about 50 pages, and then she started feeling guilty, and she stopped reading it, I think. So I was like, well, I'm thanks for trying. I got to a point where I couldn't really go into her house anymore, because it would trigger my sinuses and trigger my allergies and the smoke. And even if she wasn't smoking in the house, it was still in the atmosphere. And and I even had like a sinus infection because of it last year. I only spent a few hours at her place last November, and I ended up getting this sinus infection that turned into just a mess. And I had it all winter pretty much. I had to get on some medication and stuff. And that's, it's all because of that smoke. And but I get it. I know, like, I mean, I typically would smoke if I was drinking, and so I never considered myself a smoker. But at the same time, I kind of thought that I'd have to quit the drinking to quit the smoking, and that wasn't the case because I met my wife, not a smoker, but a drinker, and we would drink and I wouldn't smoke, and then I never smoked again, and it wasn't hard for me to quit. Alcohol was much harder for me to quit. And that lingered on for another 10 years before I was able to quit the alcohol. But I get it. Addiction is addiction. We have our drugs of choice, and whatever those are, they're hard to put down. But I would recommend Alan Carr. I don't know. I mean, some people swear by doing the hypnosis. Some people, and I think you can probably do that. Uh, do the whatever works for you. I mean, sometimes it just takes time. Excuse me. Welcome in, Alvin. And oh wow, I won a trip to San Fran Bay. Awesome. And welcome in, Dylan. And $10 a pack now, man. Yeah, that's a lot. So, and then James says, "Stop crying," and I figured I might get something like that, a comment like that, and that's okay. Uh, this is not a message of complaint. This is a message of, and I say all those stories just to share with you that though that may have been more difficult, and it would have been more difficult to deal with those people had I been drinking. And the fact that I don't drink now, I believe I have more faith. Uh, I lean on prayer more, and I have those things to help me cope with life. I have you guys. I have sobriety. I have sobriety groups. My sobriety group on Facebook, and then I also have This Naked Mind, where I don't go on there and post much. I go on there and I read every now and then, and I see if anybody else is active on there that used to be on there. But excuse me, still getting over this little cold I have. Um, but yeah, I mean, those are things that we need to be able to learn how to cope with those difficult people, those crucial conflicts, which is a book that I read before I quit drinking. I read it in 2017 when I was struggling really, really bad with my alcohol use. Um, Crucial conflicts. Sometimes we don't want to deal with those people, but sometimes we have no choice but to deal with those people. And but here's another trigger. Yesterday, so I didn't work yesterday. I went up and I went for a walk, and it was sunny, and it was like 40. It was like 45 degrees at the warmest, I think, which was warm compared to what we've had here lately. Uh, we've had, like, it's back down to 23 degrees today, and it's windy and it's snowy, and man, so but anyway, yesterday, so we had the snow on the ground. It was thawing out. It was fairly warm. It was warm enough to where if you were playing basketball or something and had a t-shirt on, you could break a sweat. And so I was ruminating, and I do this once in a while in the wintertime, about a day when I was a teenager. I think it was my senior year, and my friend and I would go from friend's house to friend's house after school, like a half day, and we would have a beer or two at each friend's house. We'd be outside playing basketball and just shooting the shit, and it was fun, and it was carefree. There was no responsibility, really. I mean, I think I had a job, but I wasn't working that day or the next day. It was like a weekend job at a bowling alley. And so I didn't have anything to worry about. I didn't have much, school I never really took seriously, so I didn't have like studying to do or anything like that. And so just thinking about that day, and that's a rumination that I've had since I was 18, 17 years old, when we'd have a day like this. And yesterday was like that, and I was thinking about it, and I got a picture. I took a picture of the day, and it was a snapshot. I put it on our post on the community here and then on my Facebook group. And I wanted to just take a snapshot to remember that, because in this journey, so it's been almost going on 6 years now that I've been alcohol free, and learning how making new memories and living life alcohol free is something that, um, I'm not yearning for like 2021 or 2022 to come back. Whenever I have like a rumination, it's a rumination about when I was younger, maybe high school or college, but it was like in my younger days when I was a teenager, or in my 20s when I didn't have responsibilities. I wasn't married. I didn't have a family. I didn't have kids. I didn't have like a career or a job that I had to really answer to. I mean, I had jobs, but like it wasn't my career. And so I know that those ruminations are happening uh, because it was a freeing time. It was, carefree, and and I was able to use alcohol. So, but now that I'm alcohol free and I've noticed that, I want to make new memories, and I want to remember just what alcohol did to me. So a little bit earlier, there's a comment from Trappin that alcohol helps you socialize. And that would have been a day where I would say, yeah, I was socializing. I was lubricated with alcohol. It didn't matter who I talked to or what we talked about. Uh, I wasn't stressed out, and it made me feel comfortable. It made me feel like, alive. It made me feel like part of, alcohol is so communal. Sorry, I got a runny eye here. But alcohol is a communal thing. So if everybody's doing it and it's accepted and everybody's happy and everybody's feeling good, then yeah, you're going to think that the alcohol is making all that better. And maybe it is. Maybe it is. It probably is for a little bit of time, 20 minutes, half hour, couple hours, maybe for a whole afternoon. Maybe it's awesome. But then the thing is that the more we drink, and if you drink or drink like I did, you start to black out. Then you start to do things that you normally wouldn't do. You say things that you normally wouldn't say. You continue drinking because you're chasing that feeling, and then you wake up at 3 a.m. You got anxiety, you got a hangover, you might have indigestion, a headache, and then maybe you can get back to sleep. But then you wake up and it wasn't good sleep, it wasn't restful sleep. You're hungover, you're dehydrated, your head is swimming, and you might get on with your day. You might be able to work, you might be functional, you might wear that as a badge of honor that you're able to function that way. But those are all the things that I look at, and it solidifies me in being alcohol free. I don't want to feel like that anymore. I don't want to even think about alcohol. I don't need it, and I don't want it, and I don't even want one, because one leads to 10. And even if I could go back and drink one and be a regular moderated drinker, which I never was anyway. I mean, at the very minimum, I was that when I first started drinking, but I was limited in the ways to get alcohol. I was I was 15 when I started, so 15 to 21, it wasn't really that easy to get alcohol. So, that keeps you from drinking. So now that once I turned 21, I just went to the store anytime I want, all the time, and get alcohol and drink it, have it stocked. Go to the bar, drink. I didn't go to the bar and get hammered, but I certainly, unless someone else was driving or I got an Uber home or something like that, then I could drink a lot. But for the most part, I'd drink a couple at a bar or a restaurant, and then I'd go home and I would drink the rest of the night or rest of the day away. And once I started hating being drunk, and that was because of the pandemic. There was nothing to do. I was bored out of my mind. There was no sports on. There was no new movies or shows coming out. After a few weeks of that, it started running its course, and I got bored of being drunk, and I hated drinking, and the anxiety that went along with that because of the health issues of people and all the worries of getting COVID and everything else. Like I like it just it wasn't the alcohol wasn't helping me anymore. It wasn't helping my anxiety. It wasn't we weren't socializing, so I didn't care about that aspect of it anymore. Uh, and if the great one says if alcohol helps you socially, then be a loner. And that's an interesting um, observation. And thanks for making that comment because most of my life, I kind of would prefer to be alone, to be honest. Like I did have social anxiety, but at the same time, like uh, and alcohol wasn't the reason why I was able to socialize more. Alcohol just it did help sometimes, but um, but for the most part, like I grew up an only child. If I wasn't with a friend, then I was by myself. So I was used to that. And as I got older, like I didn't really want to be around people. I isolated. I drank in isolation most of the time. Uh, and yeah, I might go out with friends here and there. But for 99% of the time, I was by myself drinking. And that was what I wanted. That's what I liked. But I always felt like I wanted more. I wanted connection. I wanted people in my life. I mean, I got married. We've got kids. I've got a best friend. I've got friends. I've got church friends. I've got you guys. I've got, most of that's virtually, but there's a lot going on, a lot of people in my life. But for the most part, still, and actually for the first couple years, 3 years, I was trying to come to terms with the fact that I, I prefer that because maybe we're not all cut out to be social, like socialites or social beings. Maybe we're not, uh, maybe we, beat ourselves up that we're not better, can't speak more publicly. Maybe we feel like we're closed off and we don't want that. Um, then there's a couple different personality types, type A, type B. And so, it's like I would just kind of go back and forth with that and not accept myself for the way that it is. And that maybe that's just the way that it is. Like, I'll meet the people that are meant to be in my life, and then that's fine. The rest of the time, I can be by myself. And that doesn't mean I'm alone or a loner. It just means I'm by myself, and that's fine. You know what I mean? And a lot of time I spend in prayer, a lot of time I spend hiking, a lot of time I can spend making YouTube videos, being on live streams like this, and that is what is rewarding for me. And the further away from alcohol I get, the better off I feel. Uh, but back to the topic at hand, those triggers to drink. I started to talk about a little bit about um, how it was important for me to learn how to cope with those things, those anxieties and stresses. And one of those techniques is to think about and play forward how I felt about alcohol when I was drinking, and then how bad I felt when I was blacking out, and then with the hangover, and then having the mental gymnastics of thinking about how much to drink, how little to drink, how like what time I can start. Um, you know, do I have to drive? Am I gonna have? Do I have to?
like schedule my drinking session around driving somewhere, dropping a child off somewhere, picking them up, all those things. And then I got to a point where it was like, I feel better that I don't have to think about it at all. I don't have to think about alcohol at all anymore, and that's a blessing. But another thing was I thought about was that I had this health issue last year, and it was acute pancreatitis, and I actually made a video about that. And I think about it from time to time, but I was thinking about it today, this morning, on my way to do this live stream. And some people would ask, like how could it not be alcohol related? Well, they did the testing. I don't drink. I hadn't had a drink in 4 years when I had this. They did like a ultrasound to check and see if there was gallstones, because it's either alcohol use or gallstones is usually the reason why people get pancreatitis. So those were both ruled out. I followed up with my doctor a couple weeks or maybe like a month later, because I had another CT done to follow up to make sure that it was okay. But I was in the hospital for 4 days. I had to, not eat for like the first day and then go on like liquids and then soft solids and then solids. So I was in there like 4 days. But I was curious, like why did I get that? And he said, my doctor said that since you don't drink and it wasn't gallstones, that it's usually because it was a viral thing, like a virus. And that was, that eased my mind a little bit. And the fact that, like, am I ever going to get this again? And he said, probably not. I mean, you might get it or whatever. But I thought, if I was still drinking, uh, I would be worried about that all the time. Like I was worried about my health all the time, and I didn't ever really. I ended up in like one night I spent, because I had a severe panic attack when I was 24. But since then, all the way till last year, I never spent a night in the hospital, and then I spent 4 days in the hospital because of that. And I wasn't a drinker anymore. And every now and then I think about that, and I'm like, you know, I'm glad I don't drink, because I would be worried like I always was about my health. Like I was always worried about my anxiety, my heart. I was always like I had some issues, but not to the point it was medically needed. Anything was medically needed, but I had like GERD. I had this really bad influx, uh, acid reflux when I was in my upper 20s, and then I had this GI thing in my like upper 30s, where I was like, when I would swallow something, it felt like it burned and it hurt a little bit to swallow, and it was usually after I drank a lot the night before. And if I was on like a 5 day bender, it was definitely worse. So I knew in my heart that I was like ruining my esophagus with all this drinking. And it worried me. And I thought, I'm going to drink myself to an early grave if I continue drinking like this. And it's because it's not sustainable. And that was the thing. Like when I think about that now, and all those first few years that I quit drinking, and then the last couple years since I don't really ever have any urges to drink anymore, it's like I think about those times, and I'm just grateful that I don't have to worry about any of it. You know what I mean? And if I get a health issue, it's not because of alcohol or smoking or doing other drugs. Um, And I say other drugs because alcohol is a drug. I mean, it's a known carcinogen. It's known to cause all kinds of different cancers in any amount. It doesn't matter if it's one a day or 10 a day. I mean, yeah, you're going to have worse feelings if you have 10 than you would of one, but there's still issues that can happen because of alcohol, even if you drink like a moderate drinker, one or two or three a day. You're still going to have, there's still possibilities of having issues. And if you just don't drink at all, then you don't have to worry about it. So So that's kind of what I got for you guys today. For those of you that tuned in, thank you so much for being here. I want to go back and make sure to thank Trappin for sending me that those, I think it was coins, but it might have been a thanks. But at any rate, 100. It was 100 gift. So thank you so much for that. Anything that you guys, thanks Russell Crowe. That I'll take that as a compliment. I like that. No, I am not Muslim. Uh, so yeah, so anything that you guys want to contribute to the channel monetarily is appreciated, because this is going to keep my channel going. But even because I do want to make this a career eventually, and and to do that, I'll, needless to say, need to make enough money to do that. But right now, I'm just keeping at it, plugging away at my regular job. But this, I take a lot more, I take joy out of that job because I do love to drive, but I take a lot of joy out of this channel because I love to be able to have this community, be able to share my journey, but also have you guys share your journey with me and with all of us as well. So yeah, but I'll continue to make the free content every Wednesday and Sunday. So stay tuned for that. I'll make a video and post that for members only, probably by tomorrow, and then it'll be out Sunday for everybody else. But if you want to give a super thanks, I'd appreciate that. It's my pleasure, Trappin'. And Anthony says I've been going through the same issues for years. I'm hungover now. Try to quit again in 2026. Yeah, that's all you can do is keep it on your forefront. Sometimes I was in flux with alcohol for about 3 years, still finding benefit in it, but also feeling like I didn't like it anymore. Uh, and then when I finally was able to quit, um, through the grace of God, I was able to, and I surrendered, and I turned it over to Him, and I just said I can't do this on my own anymore. I need help. For I know the reasons why, but at that point when I did that, all the solutions to staying sober like came to me. I found a book, a couple books. I found a group. I found a therapist that specialized in drug addiction counseling, who was an addict himself. Uh, I was able to be vulnerable with my wife about my triggers, my anxieties, and my worries to drink alcohol, my urges to drink. I joined that group, This Naked Mind. I was on there every day, and all those things put together kept me alcohol free. And then eventually, uh, I got through the big urges to drink, and I never looked back. And that's really what it takes. You got to be 100% ready to be done, committed. You got to know what it's going to take. Community is huge. Like I said, therapy helped me, but reading books helped me. Quit Lit helped me. But being on a channel like this will help you. And also knowing that you are ready to be done at some point. And even though it might not happen right now, right today, you might have relapses, you might slip back into it. Just take solace in the fact that you're here. We all know what that hangover feeling feels like, Anthony, and it's not fun. But you'll get there, and you just got to stick with it. So I'm glad that you guys are all here, and have a great weekend. Stay in touch. Join my sobriety group if you want to. I'd love to have you. It's on Facebook. It's a private group. The link is pinned in all my videos. Um, Post here. This is public. That's private. But if you're comfortable posting here what you are, that's great too. But on any of my videos, I'm checking in constantly every hour or so for the comments on YouTube and on Facebook. So we'll see you Sunday with the video, and I'll probably be back for another live stream next week. So have a great weekend, everybody. Great sober weekend. We'll see you then.